started. Hello, everyone. Some of you have already met George. He's visited us a couple times. He even ran workout at Puyallup one or two times. And yeah, we're fortunate, George, just to have you back with us. For those of you that don't know, George was the bronze medalist in 2004 in the 200 IM, and he did some of he I think you're the only person, George, that's ever reinvented themselves, mid professional career. um, you went from swimming these mid distance events, the freestyle, and winning that medal in the 200 IM, and even setting the world record in short course meters, to becoming a 50 freestyler. And I do want you to tell a little story about how that happened later on. I thought it was pretty good. We're we are the sum of a lot of our decisions, and I do want that story to kind of come from your from your mouth later on. Hey, we don't want to talk about the situation out there. It is what it is, but I think what the there's a lot of value that somebody can get out of just kind of hanging out with you, and I think that for us, I think it's just pretty cool that we can kind of look at someone like you and learn about your beginnings, how you stumbled into swimming, and so tell us about that.
Well,
you can even start with where you're from, and what those conditions look like out there, because it's a different world.
Yeah, you've been to visit me. Yeah, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. Well, actually, I'm from Trinidad, and my dad is from Trinidad and my mother's from Tobago. Very small islands in the Caribbean, the most southerly islands all the way down at the bottom. And I think my swimming career started before I was born. My grandmother built a swimming pool, and in Trinidad, that was a big deal. Like, not many people have swimming pools at their house, and my grandparents had one. And then when I came along, it was just natural that we would go over there, and the pool was like the center of their yard, and we would hang out, and I'd be in the pool all the time. And our family had a boat, and to use a boat, you're just on this little floating object in the middle of the ocean, and you're compelled to go into the ocean. So it was very important that I learned to swim very early, so just for safety. So I kind of was proficient in the water before I could really walk. And always growing up in the ocean, in my grandmother's pool, and then I was a decent swimmer. Like, I could hold my own in the ocean, and I was diving to try to just like snorkeling in the bottom, looking for things. By the time I started to do swimming as a sport at 7 years old, and I used to like to swim on the bottom of the pool and down in the bottom of the ocean as much as I like to swim on the top. And then I got into the sport at 7 years old. And swimming in Trinidad was very small. There's just a couple teams. The teams are very small. Nobody from Trinidad had ever really excelled in the sport internationally, and there were no real role models available. So we were just kind of doing it, and we were very excited about it. And it was one of the few things that I could do in my life that allowed me to travel. When I was 8 years old, I got to go and represent my club team in Martinique, which is a different island further north. And I stayed with the family. They only speak French there. That was a really stimulating experience for me at 8 years old. I left my parents, was like out in the world, and the swimming not only appealed to my love of the water, but it appealed to sort of my love of adventure and of travel and of excitement and competition. And it started to become very fulfilling in that regard, which made it very encouraging for me. And I continued, in like once or twice a year, there'd be these Caribbean island competitions, and we traveled between the islands to compete. And there were age groups, so it's like 8 and under, 9 to 10, 11 to 12. And then from there, I kind of was swimming all the events at every meet. And
So you must have been pretty good when you first started club swimming. I mean, given that you were kind of swimming as a baby, as a toddler. you sort of knew what you were doing right away, right?
Yeah, I think so. I knew what freestyle was. I knew what breaststroke was. I struggled with butterfly and backstroke. Um, and back then, it was just a couple times a week. I'm sure that's how it is for most age group teams. And a really interesting story. So we had this coach in Trinidad, and the coaches in this area were not very experienced. This is before the internet. They're just passing around like cassette tapes of like Matt Biondi, just people we weren't very exposed. And I remember a guy came in off the street into our swim club, and he had swum at a boarding school, Mercersburg Academy in the States. He went to Arizona State and kind of dropped out of university and went to find himself. And his grandmother was from Trinidad, so he was living with his grandmother. And that afternoon, our coach gave him our group, and he took over control of our group, and our old coach kept the younger kids. And this guy came in and he exposed us to distance swimming, and he made us believe that distance swimming was just the ultimate competition. It was about who's the toughest, who can hang on. And we started to like learn about people like Eric Vent, who would swim like 20 or 30K workouts till he would pass out in the gutter. We started to learn about Tom Dolan. Yeah, he really inspired us. But it's interesting, like he used to go on these hikes. Milo, you went on a hike with me in the jungle once.
Yeah, and I think for context, George and where he lives, he literally lives in the jungle. They had this Swiss family Robinson house in the middle of just woods, just the pure jungle. Yeah, very, very dangerous just going home every day.
Well, this old coach of mine, Edward, he went hiking one day over the weekend, and he didn't show up for practice on Monday morning. And we were all very excited. Oh, no coach here today. And it turned into a bunch of social kick and like dive 25s. And then he didn't show up on Monday afternoon. And we're like, okay, great. We can take it easy again. And up until that point, we had been really training, distance training, all about like T30s and 15 100s for time. And you have to like improve your average every time we do this set, pretty much every month.
Yeah, my seniors hate that.
Yeah. And back then I was having some success in the distance events. I was 15:55 in the 1500 freestyle. I was doing a good 200 IM. I was like 2:0. It was close to the B time for the Olympics in the IM. My 400 IM was my main event at that time. I was swimming everything, and mainly the distance events were my forte. And this coach, he didn't come to practice on Tuesday now. And everybody started to get worried. Wednesday, he just disappeared. So there started to be a manhunt for him. He went on a hike and he disappeared. And what had happened was he had fallen off a cliff. And he fell really far. And on the way down, he banged into the side of the cliff. And he landed on a ledge. And he was trapped on this ledge with a mud puddle. And he was drinking the muddy water. And he was there for like 3 days or something, no food, with a broken rib, so he couldn't even cry for help. And he made all these promises, and on that ledge, he figured out his whole life. And when he was done, they found him and they rescued him, and then he got serious about his like life plan, and he became very religious, and he stopped coaching, unfortunately. But he started back coaching later on. And our group that was really motivated kind of degenerated into a bunch of swimmers hanging out at the pool. We do a lot of social kick, we'd swim easy, and we'd try to say that, all right, today we're going to do 5K. And we'd do about 3K. And then we'd say, all right, well, we're going to do a dive 100, or I'll do a 50 underwater, or I'll do 100 all out. And that's like doing 1,000 or 50 underwater.
Who would decide this? Just amongst yourselves, you just
say like, yeah, 50 underwater, that's like about a good 400 we had these sort of skewed equations. And around this time, I had an opportunity come to me where I was given an Olympic Solidarity Scholarship to go to high school in Florida called Bulls. And I went to Bowls, and Bowls was this team that was notorious for, it was like the philosophy is that if you throw enough mud against the wall, some will stick. So they just get kids and they train them really, really hard, and like 95% of them just get injured or burn out or give up, and 5% end up becoming pretty good, and they get scholarships to university, usually full scholarships. And I went to this team, and we were doing some weeks I swam 100K a week in 10 seconds. Yeah, I think I did that once.
Did you think that that was important for your development?
And we were doing that. We were running on the track. We were doing dry land. We were doing some light circuit weights. And we really believed it was making us better. And I was, for the first time, surrounded by like a cohort of other swimmers who were really motivated. And we were just feeding off of each other in this synergy. But looking back, I think it made me a worse swimmer because of that. Like on Fridays, it was called Fly Day. We do like 7K in the morning of butterfly, and come back in the afternoon and like another 7 or 8K where it's 200s, 150s, butterfly. And my butterfly stroke just kind of degenerated into this survival stroke that wasn't very fast. It was just an adaptation to become very efficient. So in ways like that, it made me a worse off swimmer, but I think it made me very mentally strong.
Do you think, again, do you think that it was necessary? I mean, I like what you said about, how the power of being around motivated people and them pushing and feeding off of one another. It's something that I believe in. When we were training together, I like to believe that, that training with you was going to make me a better swimmer. And similarly, I think a lot of people will agree that working together, it's only going to make you better. But
Yeah.
it's hard to hear someone like you, was doing 100,000 yards, per week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back
Do you
then,
think that it was imperative for your development, or was that just kind of one part of your life that kind of you believe made you tough?
I think it was just something that made me tough. I don't think it necessarily made me a better swimmer. Um, and I kind of started to get this reputation for like this idea of the hammer of justice. Yeah. And I had a lot of really bitter rivalries in my swimming career. And some of my most just extreme rivalries were in age group swimming against older boys. And we would just be constantly racing until the end of a 200 or a 400. There's nobody giving up. It's just pushing all the way every single time. And I developed like a
What
kind
was
of,
your motive, George? I mean, was it about proving to everybody in your city or your country that you were up and coming, or was it, was it to make your parents happy, or what got you up every day?
I used to
And I'm
swim.
talking back then,
Back
when you were a kid.
I was a very aggressive kid. I used to fight a lot at school, and my father was really hard on me. Like I just had all this pent up anger in me, and it was just one way that I could channel it and focus it. And in really and truly, like many instances, it was like this tow truck, this powerful tow truck that I could hook up to myself and literally pull myself out of the mud when I got stuck, when I got tired, when I got lazy, pull me out of bed at 4:20 in the morning to go to the pool. I just had this burning desire to like, I just need to take this all the way, and I wanted to beat people. And I was just, it was like a focused outlet for my inherent aggression back then. And it sounds like, like I can't imagine how I could have ever been so aggressive. I'm a completely different person now, but it was just
Well,
what.
I remember you from those days, and sure enough, like I shared a lot of the same characteristics. A lot of, the most successful athletes that I've ever known growing up, they came from kind of a similar background, and they were very angry. But then you literally have other great examples of people who had the opposite experiences, who had happy and supportive backgrounds. And do you think that, I mean, we'll never know, but do you remember your club days and that part of your childhood? I mean, was it happy? Were you having a good time?
I didn't really have a happy childhood, but I did love swimming. I really loved the water. And it was that
Hmm.
combination of loving it with a little bit of that fire. So when it got hard, when it got difficult, I could I could tap into that for a fuel source to push me a little bit further.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. What about, I mean, was it an element of going to practice to fight, you say, or just to prove yourself, or was it hanging out with friends? Because, my fondest memories were going to practice and really hanging out with my friends. Sure, I wanted to prove myself, but I think most people, when they kind of dig down deep, they it's for the friends,
Mhm.
and what better way of getting better than to be surrounded by your friends.
I did have really good friends,
Do you
especially
still
when I
talk to
went
any
to
of them?
Bowls. Like I had a roommate and we lived like the two of us. Yeah, two of us in bunk beds the size of like a big bathroom. And he was a swimmer also. He used to swim the mile. And like my friends were the people from the team. And we really were a good support for each other. And the thing is, looking back, I say, wow, that was crazy. That was so hard. But when I was in it, I didn't know it was hard. It was just normal. I used to get up in the morning, drink a glass of water, take a vitamin C tablet, and go and like throw down 8, 9, 10K, come back, eat a whole bunch of pancakes, bacon, potato tots, get dressed for school. And then I just go to fall asleep in my first two classes. Then I'd then afternoon would come out at 3, would swim until 5, then would have an hour of like medicine balls or dry land or running on the track. Then I'd eat dinner, then would have a study hall. And if you had really good grades, you got the privilege of studying in your room. So there was an incentive to be dedicated to your academics as well. And then after that was done at 9:15, we had a snack. And then my other friends would come knocking on my door and be like, "Hey George, we need one more guy to go play basketball. It was so much fun last time. Do you remember? Come on." And I'd be like, "Ah, all right, let's go." And then basketball, come back at 10:30 and like rinse off again because it's covered in sweat and go to sleep. And it was one day we'd wake up at 5 and the next day we'd wake up at 7. Every other day was morning practice.
Yeah. What's interesting when you talk about this, like you smiling through it, you're smiling about it. Like you're getting beat up day in, day out, but you're smiling about it. And from that I do sense through all that hard work and as hard as it was, like you look back with you're fond of those memories.
We always took a lot of pride that we weren't normal people at the school. Even when I was in Trinidad, that we weren't normal people. I always felt like a badass having known that I got up 4:20, was swimming at 5 a.m. I did already so many things. I passed so many like mental tests. I defeated challenges in the sets. I had like already done so much for the day by the time I'm going to school and everybody else is just lazy and going along and content with mediocrity. I always felt like, yeah, like,
Well, I bet they didn't fall asleep through their first two classes. No, but I think what you bring up is an important point that not just yourself, but even everyone in this team and everyone that swims, more than a couple times per week, we're not normal. We're different, and I think a lot of people today they wear their team gear to school with pride. They belong to this small community, this small group, and it's unique. And I see you smiling through getting beat up, and I just jog a couple of my own memories. But tell me, like, what you laughed through saying like these days were so hard, but what was kind of the hardest set or the hardest workout? If you could just one thing that you're never going to forget until the day you die.
um, there's a couple of them. One of them was a 2400s on 5 minutes long course,
24 500s.
2400 meters on 5 minutes. That was a hard one. And another one we would do is the National Order of Events. So it starts off with the 800 free and it goes through everything and then finishes with the 1500. And then the last event is the 50. And that was something
How
that
much rest did you get between each?
10 seconds rest. And then when it's done, you calculate the total time.
Yeah.
And the bowls school would keep the records from like decades ago, like big swimmers like Greg Burgess. And you'd be able to be like, oh, Anthony Nesty did this time.
For those of you that don't know, Bowls it's a school in it's Gainesville, Florida, right?
In Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida, and in general, they've got a long tradition, history of producing just some of the best athletes in the world. I think was it Ryan Murphy that went there?
I think Caleb Dressel went there actually.
I mean, I think quite a few high caliber Olympic champions went there, and I think it kind of touches up on what you were saying. If it doesn't break you, it's going to produce a champion.
Really hard there. It was notorious for like the ultimate of hard training.
Yeah.
That was when I was in Trinidad. I think the culture in Trinidad, life is very easy in Trinidad. People never really had to struggle. There's never been a great war. People have never really had to sacrifice. Whenever you want food, food just grows on fruit trees. And the culture celebrates mediocrity. It's very difficult to become a really successful or exceptional person in a place where everybody's just trying to be normal. Because normal there is just easy. Nobody wants to struggle. And I think that had I stayed in Trinidad, I think it would have been very difficult to rise above that culture. And it was just getting out of that and being surrounded by other people who wanted to pursue swimming to get a full scholarship to university, to represent their countries, to make national teams, even to go to the Olympics. Just being around people like that with that different mentality really helped me lift myself up above just accepting what was normal.
Yeah.
When I was tired, it was just it became never a question. It was all about taking it all the way in that environment, which is what really Trinidad would have pulled me down.
Yeah, there's a lot of clubs out there, a lot of places that one could go to train, and for me when I came to King, it was because of the history and tradition of performance that that kind of drew me to this club. I knew it growing up. And it was one of the reasons why I wanted to come and be a part of something with such tradition. We can always kind of look back and point to some great swimmers that came from our team, and similarly, you look at Bowls, and I can't help but feel that somebody that signs up to go to Bowls or to certain universities, they have to know what they're getting themselves into. Did you see that burning building and be like, you know what, I'm gonna go run in there?
I kind of saw this as my golden ticket. Like, this is it. Like, let me stay on this rocket. It's going to take me all the way. Just hang on. Just hold on. I can make it.
That's really, really cool to hear.
That was like my way out, man. Like, I was very happy to be away from home. I was very happy to be out of Trinidad, which was very difficult, especially to swim there. The facilities were really bad. Like, to give you an idea, now I suffer a lot. Like, if I eat an apple that's too green, my teeth get really sensitive. Now, that's because for many years, the people who were running the pool I was swimming at in Trinidad didn't know what they were doing. The pool would turn green. They just throw a whole bunch of like chlorine or bleach, or the pool was like a science experiment. And it was always giving us like rashes on our skin, or I had those sponge goggles, old school sponge goggles.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a fungus that was living in the sponge, and it was just like giving me a face rash. I had like air infections all the time. I mean, it was really third world. And the pool,
I mean, you would have had to have loved swimming that much to keep coming back.
like the wall where the water line was on the pool was just caked up with oil from human skin. And we used to like write our initials in there and write little notes to each other on the wall. It was just very dirty. It was filthy. I don't know how we survived. So that was the environment I was coming from. And then like it's like the only white guy on my team too. Like me and my brother, it was like we were famous because we were the white guys. No, they're the white guys on the swim team.
Wow. And again, I kind of want to get to that story, like you you were this accomplished IMer. I mean, you could really swim anything, but you first made a name for yourself in the 200 IM.
Mhm.
How and why did you go from that event and transform yourself into the direct opposite of what an IMer is, and that is a 50 freestyler?
Well, I always loved the 50 freestyle. I kind of idolized Alex Popov, this great Russian sprinter. We had this cassette tape that was being passed around the swimming community in Trinidad, and I'd like watch his races from Atlanta. I'd watch how he would move and really try to copy his style. And I always thought the 50 free was the best. Was like a very special race. And I had some rivalries that I didn't really used to win when I was younger in the 50 free. And then I was in the individual medley, and my coaches made me believe that it was and I still believe to this day that it's the all-round best swimmer. It's a fast swimmer. It's a swimmer with endurance. It's a swimmer with mastery over all the techniques and all of the turns. It's really the all-round best swimmer in the 200 IM. And I was really pursuing that race, and I came fourth in the Worlds when I had just turned 18 at the World Championships, finishing high school. I had a full scholarship to Auburn. And then my freshman year at NCAAs, I won NCAAs as a freshman, and I broke the record. And my senior year of high school, I had to take the whole year off because I had torn where the muscles in my forearm attached to my humerus. So I really started back my college season from nothing. Then my sophomore year, I came in the defending champion, and I defended my title, but it was in short course meters, and I broke the world record. And earlier, 2003, I finished the long course season ahead of Michael Phelps, ranked #1 in the world in the 200 IM. He was the Pan American champion. And, you always have a weak stroke. And I started the 200 IM with a weak breaststroke. And I would have to really rely on my backstroke and my freestyle. And by the time that I was at my prime in the 200 IM, I had no weak stroke anymore. Like if I could go hard on any one of the 4 strokes to try to have a psychological advantage over somebody. And I have a great friend of mine. His name is Murat Safin. He's from Russia. He was a world #1 in tennis. He won the US Open. He won the Australian Open. And we were talking one day, and we were talking about how, like, when you absolutely feel invincible, life has a way of coming to humble you. And I came into the 2004 Olympics as the world record holder, and I had a terrible shoulder injury. And I didn't really tell anybody except my dad and my coach about it, and really struggled, and was very happy to have got the bronze. It was a best time for me, Olympic medal. But when I recovered from the injury and I came back into college swimming, I was really feeling invincible. I was better than I'd ever been, and I would win races with style. I would tell my friends, hey, look at the breaststroke, look at the backstroke. I'm going to make him give up, or I'd swim with people and then just speed up at the flags to beat them, like with too much style. And I really, invincible.
Showboating. That's
Yeah.
what it's called, showboating.
And at that time, I believe personally, like, I called down upon myself an event that would come to humble me. And I went to play paintball one day. I used to run around the forest with a cut-off t-shirts, playing paintball with my college buddies at university. And I dove into some tall grass and tried to do a front roll. And there was a tree stump. And I hit my knee on the tree stump, and I completely wrecked my knee. I separated where the knee joins together. I tore my PCL and just wrecked the whole thing. And I could never do the breaststroke again. And for a couple of years, I had to really get humbled. And then all I could do was freestyle pull. So I pulled and continued through the whole college season. I think I was 4th in the 200 free that year, swimming with just like one leg, pushing off the wall with one leg. Was in the NCAAs, was in the finals of the 100 free as well. But all I did was pull. And then I got terrible overuse injury, tendonitis. I used to use these big paddles and just pull all the time. So then I had the next year a shoulder injury from my senior year all throughout college. And I reached the end of that, and, I fulfilled my 4 years. And I thought, all right, I can't continue like expecting to get good at the IM again. My knee is not going to heal. I can't go back, and I have to understand that I can never be as good as I was. Now that's very painful to accept. I could never be as good as I am as I had been. So I was faced with two choices. Either I just give up and let it go, or I decide, do I really love swimming? I mean, I'd already had success. I already have Olympic medal, world record. And I decided, I love swimming, but I'm going to continue to swim out of the love. And what is the direction I want to take it? Of course, towards the 50 freestyle. So then I had to learn how to swim 50 freestyle, sprint freestyle. So I went to learn from Milorad's coach, Mike Bottom. And then we became roommates. And we trained together for many years after that. And I had to really go in very humbly. And I remember, I'm used to being invincible. I'm used to winning the 100 IM every time, the 200 IM every time I swam it, 200 free. And I have to start swimming this new race. And I have to learn how to lose and keep coming back and lose and come back and lose and come back. And it really humbled me for 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008. Finally, in 2009, I started to make the finals of the world champs in the 50 free. And my friend Murat, the tennis player, he said when he really felt invincible, like at the top of his game, he started to win with too much style. He started to not just beat people, but rub it in their face that they were defeated, just like too much showboating. And he had a knee injury also. And then he had to suffer for many years after that, where he was dealing with this huge handicap. He could never be as good as he was because his knee was hurting him. And his adversaries learned to hit the ball to his forearm, and he couldn't quite get the end turn around because to put that much stress on his knee, he wouldn't be able to be explosive, and it would hurt him. And we talked about in our journeys as people, because swimming is not really just about swimming. It's about growing as a person, making you stronger, making you have more control over yourself so you're less reactionary. And he said that that's when he realized that he was playing the game on level expert. Like when you're on level easy, the best day, when you're feeling your best, it comes on the biggest day. When you're playing the game on level expert, the biggest day comes when you're having the worst day, and you have to somehow dig deep to overcome those challenges. And that's how you keep growing as a person.
I love that. I think if you've been in the sport for long enough, you're gonna lose a million times.
Yeah.
I think the gift of losing is it kind of forces you to sit back, look at what you could have done better, look at what others are doing. And similarly, from your story coming to Cal and training with us, you were able to work with the best in the world, fully knowing that you probably had little business, training with these guys, at least in that race. But where did this self-confidence come from? Like, I'm going to be a 50 freestyle. You can't decide to be a 50 freestyler at some point of your race or at some point of your career, but you did.
I think it comes from swimming all the races when I was a kid. There were some times when I would win 50 freestyle as a boy.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know if I was going to be able, this is the truth. I did not know if I was ever going to be a good 50 freestyler, but I wanted to see if I could. I was willing to try. I was going to give it a shot. And along the way, I was very encouraged by even the smallest amount of progress.
Yeah.
I found that really encouraging, and I'd choose to consciously recognize, hey, look at how far we got. Look at how far we came. We're making progress. And I had this patience, and I believed that, all right, if I can just keep replicating this, that over a long enough time, 2 years, 3 years, okay, the Beijing Olympics, maybe we can make the final there. I started to dream, and was really just in it to give it a shot. And I believe, Milo, what do you think the meaning of a champion is from your experience?
The meaning of a champion. It's a hard question, but
To be a champion.
To be a champion is someone that's been through the ups and downs and to the point of no return and still come back. Everyone thinks that, one of our better swimmers is in this chat. Her name is Janelle, and for a lot of people that watch Janelle or any champion for that matter, you see these athletes and you think like, wow, it must be really, really good and nice to be that fast, but they don't see the backstory. They saw you, George, winning the bronze in the 50 freestyle at the 2013 World Championships, but they don't know George's backstory until they do a little research and look that 9 years before he was an IMer and then he busted his knee playing paintball. I mean, what's more human than that? And knowing you always comment, like Icarus, when you get too proud, you fly close to the sun, and then you're gonna fall. And I think life is up and down, and to be a champion, it is a great gift to lose. There is no harder lesson than to lose. And
There's
from
one.
hearing this story from you, like it's really powerful, and knowing that first you raced every race all the time when you were a kid, which is something that I think we need to go back to. As a club, we need to start racing everything. And to hear that, you lost a lot, and we're humble enough to see through it as just kind of part of the process. I think that's really, really important.
I think that
Hey, George, I want to open up this conversation to to people here. If you got a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and
okay, I just want to say
and ask your question.
one thing about what it means to be a champion. I think that as you go through life, it's like a video game. As you're going to be growing and developing your character. But in order to grow as a person, challenges come, and the challenges force you to move out of your comfort zone. That's how we grow. We grow when we get stretched out of our comfort zone. Now, every challenge is going to come with a moment of weakness. At the point where you're absolutely exhausted, you're tired, you have nothing left. And in that moment of weakness comes the perfect excuse. It's perfect. It is really the perfect excuse. It's the reason why you're tired. It's the reason why you're injured. It's the reason why you can give up and be okay with yourself for giving up. And that excuse is so perfect. It's so tempting. It is a huge temptation. And you have to have a really strong mind to push that away and continue to hold on. And it doesn't matter if it's a swimming race, if it's an ultra marathon, or if you're hooked up to chemotherapy at the hospital, running out of hope, and you're just holding on and you're not giving up. You're not giving up. You're going to keep one more day of treatment. And being a champion has nothing to do with anybody else. It only has to do with yourself. And it only has to do with you knowing that when the perfect excuse came, you were strong enough not to take it, and you held on. You held on and you made it through. And as you make it through the challenge, you grow as a person. You get confidence. You start to believe in yourself, understand that you can make it. You know that you're strong. And that makes the next challenge even easier. Because you remember, hey, I almost broke last time, but I didn't. I held on, and I have that power in me. So the next time it's easier. And as you go through, when you see like LeBron James or Michael Phelps, you're seeing really strong people, or anybody in life that has done anything great scientists, great musicians. They've worked so hard to develop themselves by attaining by conquering various challenges along the way. And they're very strong people, inner strength, not muscles, not stuff for show. It's all inside.
They weren't always like that. They weren't always like that. But I think the sum of a million, choices, to not give in to a temptation, to take, to bite into the challenge. These are the things that build your character. Or in today's video game speak, it builds XP. Yeah. Let's take some questions. Who's got some questions?
I do. So, do you think that to be really good at something, you have to love it and not just do something because you want to make your parents proud or something?
All right, I think that love is definitely important. They say that it's very easy. I mean, if you don't love it and you train really hard, most likely you're going to be mediocre at it. And it's because you love something that you do the extra and that you enjoy doing the extra, so you do the extra more often. And that's how you become great. And maybe it's something that we don't love initially, like things that are hard. We don't love things that are hard. Like I went for a swim in the ocean today and it's very cold and I don't love it, but I know it's really good for me. And when it's finished, I feel really good about everything. So sometimes we might not always love it, but we have to push ourselves through it because we know it's good for us. And we can use the intellect to say, yes, well, do I want to get a scholarship? Do I want to get stronger? Do I want to travel? Do I want to hang out with the team? Do I want to learn how to goal set? Do I want to grow as a person? And then when we have the love for the result, then we can take ourselves through the challenge to get the result.
I think that goes for everything. You know, every challenge that we accept to take on and to finish. You know, I think everyone has that sense of and that pride of accomplishment, or that, you know, that pride that we didn't you know, that we didn't pass up on the opportunity, that we, you know, we overcame it, and there is a lot to be proud when you overcome a challenge.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mercedes.
swimming is difficult. We have to be really strong to keep pushing ourselves to do it and grow.
Who else has a question?
How did you overcome your like mental block every day in like swim practice and push through the pain and everything like that?
I actually would do something. I learned very early on how to kind of control my thoughts, how to use my intellect to control my mind. So you can do this with good things and bad things. So I would stand on the edge of the pool. Maybe that we have a countdown clock where everybody has to be in by a certain time. And in the minute or 2 minutes while I stood there, I would call to my mind all of the reasons why I wanted to be there. I wanted to go to the Olympics. I wanted a scholarship. I wanted to improve my time. I wanted to make the team. And in front of me is the cold water. Initially, like, I don't want to jump in the cold water this morning. Oh, I'm tired. I'm already cold. But by taking my intellect, is taking my mind through all those reasons why it's good for me, I get to the point where I see so clearly how this is so good for me and how this is something that is going to get me to where I want to go. It's like a ladder to climb up out of like a deep black pit to get to the light. And I'm willing to do that. I actually want to get in there and I want to drive myself, even though I have maybe some mornings I'm so exhausted. So I take my mind through that and then I understand, yeah, this is really good for me. And then I want to do it. And because I want to do it, it's so much easier. There is no longer a part inside that's resisting. That little voice that says, no, it's cold. No, it's hard. Oh, no, I'm tired. Oh, no, there's more. That voice gets quiet because I have taken that voice, that mind through, and it understands, yes, this is good for me. I want to get in. I want more. I want to get pushed beyond my comfort zone.
You know, a little side story about, you know, knowing George for so long. You know, George has always been very, very aggressive in things, and a real go-getter, and he's always kind of taken what he's always wanted. I even remember going to watch that movie 300 with you, and the movie ended.
Oh, yeah,
and I just remember he turned over to me. He's like, Cavic, those weren't real abs. They're not real abs. It's like, I feel like I'm going to go to the gym right now. And it was like 11:30 at night. We're like, George, we're not going to go to the gym right now. But, you know, that was kind of part of your personality. And I think, you know, all up until that moment, you spent all these years telling that little voice in your head, oh, it's too cold, or no, I don't want to do this, oh, or I'm tired. You know, you kept beating that voice down by making decisions to challenge it.
Well, we can't really beat it down. We have to accept that that's a part of us. We have to understand, yeah, there's a part of us that doesn't want to do that. And we have to take that part of us and teach it why it wants to do it. And also maybe there are things that come up in your mind that are temptations. Oh no, don't think about that. Oh no, don't eat the donut. oh no, don't think about staying up another hour late when I need to go to bed. And that temptation is going to keep coming up, and you can have the intellect, take your mind and walk through that and say, oh, well, if I do stay up another hour, tomorrow morning I'm going to be exhausted. I'm going to feel terrible. I'm not going to have a chance to nap in the day, or I'm not going to eat that donut. And once the mind understands, oh yeah, that's really bad for me, and you have the courage to like look at how bad it is for you, look at the result, imagine what that would be like, how you'd feel. Then the mind understands, that's bad for me. I want to go to bed early. I'm not going to eat that extra donut. And that's
You really don't like donuts.
the same way we use it for the positive to get in the water, we can use it to avoid the negative.
Good question, Sierra.
Hmm.
Who else? Parents, if you're online, you can feel free to ask some questions too.
What are some of the challenges you guys deal with on a regular basis?
My seniors do not like 10-100s holding your best average. Yeah, it's no big deal, you know.
Only one more after
Only
this.
one more.
One more after this.
Only one more. You got this. All right. Well,
I used to
given no
like to warm
one's,
up really slowly, and then
you like to warm up real slow.
I used to, yeah. Especially it would allow me to kind of like I think if I were to like get in and just warm up too hard, it's like too much too soon. I had to warm up slowly, and then I found that I was more enjoying the process. And when I started to enjoy the actual swim, the actual workout, I was able to push myself a little bit further. That was just my style. I don't know if I was in your team, I'd probably be warming up in like the last two people in the lane.
We've got a couple of those, and again, that's not all bad. You know, everyone warms up their own way.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, you know, unless somebody has any questions, you know, feel free to, you know, to step in at some point. You know, George, for you, when you look back at your career, you know, they always kind of, you know, that saying, it's not about the time that you went, it's about the time that you had. I look back at my career and I think about, you know, you brought me back to swimming when I quit in 2006. And the way you brought me back wasn't by telling me, hey, you know, when we were living together one summer, and it wasn't, you know, I was going to school, summer school at Cal, and you were training, and it was the little stories that you came back with, what you guys did, just the jokes that you guys were playing in the locker room, or the social kick. For me, social kick was one of those warm places that I always kind of close my eyes and I go back to. You know, I loved just social kicking with my friends. If it was a choice of just sitting down with my friends and talking, or social kicking with my friends, it was always social kick.
Oh, man,
And you know, you always had a way of coming in and just literally just floating what you guys did that day, and it was the challenge, it was the friendship, and it was the camaraderie that I really missed, which kind of pulled me back into the sport. You know, so I what do you look fondly back on?
I do miss the camaraderie, definitely. I also miss, what's really good about swimming is that you can recognize how much progress you're making on a daily basis. Maybe you made a faster time for 8 of the 10 100s than you did last time. Maybe next time you hold a faster time for 9 100s. Just that feeling of constantly improving, growing.
It's measurable too.
It is really good. It's satisfying. Like a lot of people, maybe people you go to school with, they very, very rarely in their lives ever experience satisfaction. And satisfaction is like a reward. You have to earn it. And it's one of the most beautiful feelings ever. It's like deep down understanding, yeah, I did a good job and feeling good about it. And for me, swimming was very satisfying. A lot of challenges came, a lot of injuries, and there was always that moment that, you know, you've been having a bad 2 years of injuries, no best time, struggling, a plateau, and then a breakthrough. And it was always so satisfying. And I think it was that satisfaction, that feeling that I look back on most fondly. That those moments, it's all worth it, all the sacrifice, all the struggle.
Yeah. Here's a question from Julia Bontom. Would you please ask?
I was wondering if you are a coach.
I don't.
He's a life coach.
I'm actually a freediving instructor, and I know real yoga and pranayama and all the ancient breathing exercises that are really good for your body. And I know this like ancient Indian medical system called Ayurveda, and I teach people this sometimes. So and people, I kind of agree with some of my friends who are telling me that I need to start sharing this stuff now. So I'm just starting to make an Instagram profile, a public profile, and I'm going to start to share all of these things that I've learned, these biohacking tips from the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda, how to like take better care of your organism with the techniques of yoga and pranayama, and a couple of things I've learned from the traditional Amazonian medicine also. I just kind of put it.
George, you changed your life and became a vegetarian a couple years ago.
Yeah. When I was competing, I was always trying to take better care of my body, because I understood that if I'm really healthy, then I can recover and I can actually do my best if I am my most healthy. And back then I didn't really know. I just knew I need to take vitamin C, I'm drinking some protein powder, I'm taking amino acids. I didn't really understand, and there was nothing for me to like read or study. I'd read like men's health magazines and listen to a couple of gurus on YouTube. Only when I finished did I discover that there's an ancient science to this. It's like an operating manual for having a human organism, and it's thousands of years old. So I started to dive into it. And when I got in there and started to understand Ayurveda, which means in Sanskrit, life knowledge, the knowledge of life.
I really believe that if you were to start training now, you'd be in pretty good shape for the Olympics next year. I'm just throwing it out there, man.
I'm in as good a shape as I've ever been, I think. I do these breathing exercises, and I didn't go in the ocean diving for 2 years. And then I went to teach a course in Hawaii. When the course was done, I wanted to see how deep the bottom was. And I dove 151 feet. Nobody's watching me. And of course, because I'm alone, I'm not going to push it to the point where I feel it's dangerous or uncomfortable. And I was able to dive 151 feet and come up, and I felt amazing. And it was because of these ancient breathing exercises that I do. And the teacher who taught me, this comes from a lineage, like from big yogis who lived really long, and they lived in the Himalayas. And my teacher said, why do you want to go and run around outside and get sweaty? You just do this. This is enlightened exercise. And I do these exercises every morning. And I find my cardio.
Hey, George.
I would, forgive me. I just kind of want to touch upon that. Like, I think, George, for you, diving in that depth is kind of like swimming. You got your watch on. You can measure to see how far down you went and to see these incremental improvements. And I bet you have, you take satisfaction out of seeing yourself still better yourself and beat your own records.
I want to help other people beat their records and better themselves now. I know enough to take care of myself, my own health, my own organism. I don't get sick. I want to share this stuff out. And I think we're living in a second renaissance now because of the internet. I found a teacher, and I spent 8 months in a small city in the south of India. I've been 9 times to the Amazon with a teacher of traditional Amazonian medicine. I know real yoga from an ancient lineage, not the Lululemon yoga class, spandex stuff. And on top
better
of that,
not to touch Lululemon. Some people are real sensitive on that.
On top of that, I know the
I know.
kettlebells, Olympic lifting, training, strength training, calisthenics, and how to swim fast. And then, I want to offer this and share this for people who are interested.
So George,
Elizabeth, you had a question?
No, George. So I was thinking, if this all dies down and we kind of go back to normal,
it's only a 2-hour drive. We'd like to invite you and teach all the kids your breathing exercises.
Oh, I would love to. That would be a dream. I'll just take the ferry. I'm in Victoria.
Yep. Okay, we'll be looking forward to that.
It's called pranayama.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I have
Can
a
I ask
question.
you a question?
All right, go ahead, Chan.
So like, you don't have to answer this, but I have 2 questions. Like, what is your favorite game? Is there a game that like inspired you?
A game. What type of game are we talking about?
Like any game, like your favorite game, I guess.
I think I have stopped playing computer games a while ago, and I just don't have the time. But I really enjoyed like games like Age
You're
of
gonna
Empires.
say something wild like the game of life.
Yeah, but I was gonna say like I like to make games out of life, like make challenges out of things. Like I don't know, can I do it? Bring it on. Let me see. Make things playful. And honestly, the more playful you get, the more powerful you become. Because the opposite of fear is not courage. The opposite of fear is playfulness. The greatest warriors were the most playful. They're just going in there making style on everybody. They're not the ones who are afraid. Now, if you take this playfulness and you turn your swimming into a game, I guarantee you'll become a better competitor because you're making it playful. Instead of being afraid of losing, start to play with the idea of winning. Make a game out of it. Yeah, courage. The more playful.
Who had another question?
Oh, I just wanted to ask something about his swim.
Go ahead.
I was curious, how cold was the water, and did you wear a wetsuit?
I don't know the temperature of the water, but it's very cold, and it starts to warm up, I think, around June. I don't wear a wetsuit, and this is the second time I've done it. I have a little routine where I do some strength training exercises, 2 days on and 1 day off. And I think that's the best for my body at my current age, is to have that 2 days on, 1 day off. And on my day off, I walk like a kilometer and I go and swim. And no wetsuit. I just get in and
He
then
was in his 40s.
definitely, yeah, low 40s maybe.
Camilla?
That's really cool.
Really cool.
When did you decide that swimming was something you wanted to do professionally?
I think I decided that swimming was something I wanted to do professionally early on. I didn't decide, but I dreamt of doing it. And I remember I was finishing university, and my father was telling me like, all right, now you need to get a job. And I remember telling him, no, I'm going to be a professional swimmer. And this is the time when I'm swimming the 50 freestyle and I'm not yet very good at it. And that's when I decided to really go for it. And after a short time, I was making money at it. I had sponsors, and it was an incentive for me to really like push myself. It's one of the things that I would think about in the morning before I would jump in the cold pool. You know, your body doesn't want to get in that cold pool, but my mind would think like, yeah, I want to be a professional swimmer. I want to make money. I want to get in the top rankings so that I can get sponsors. And it was a really a huge motivating factor for me. So early on in college, I decided I wanted to be a professional swimmer. Didn't know how long.
Fantastic, George. Hey, man, you know, it's cool that we can just kind of, you know, talk like this and to kind of hear your thought process. And again, you know, there's a lot of interviews on different people all out there, but you know, just to kind of to hear about your experience and your upbringing and your thought process, you know, it's encouraging to us. Everybody's road is a little different. You know, mine was similar to yours in many ways, but very different in many ways. And just to hear you out, and you know, I think this is just a wealth of knowledge, and to confirm to a lot of people that, you know, success is not linear. You know, it's it's a lot of ups and downs, and literally falling into the deepest of holes and making a decision. This is not the end of my story. I'm going to keep going, you know, and again, taking those challenges, I think, is really, really important to building character.
I think one of the benefits I had was that early on, I realized that it's not just about swimming. Yeah, we're practicing the sport of swimming, but we're so much more than just swimmers. That the sport of swimming is going to make us better people. It's going to make us stronger mentally, with inner real strength. And everything in life gets easier when you get stronger. So like weak people, small people have big problems, but big, strong, like inner strength people, they have easy problems. Like whatever happens, like they can't break them, you know, and that type of strength, you have to earn it. And I saw swimming as a way to like keep pushing yourself as a person, to keep growing. Injuries, rivalries, challenges, even test sets, you know, where like you got nothing left and you have to make one more rep. So you kind of got to zoom out and see the big picture of things. That it's not just about swimming. You want to be a great person? Well, this is the path. You just take one step at a time.
It's hard to see that eagle eye view when you're just an age group swimmer, and it's kind of easier when you get older. You know, I admit, you know, I'm 35, you're 36. You know, and the older you get, the the better you see your past and in that big picture. You know, guys, and everyone here, I just want to remind you, like, you know, this is just a process, it's a journey, and the way, you know, if you stay with your friends and you work hard and you don't cut corners, things are going to work out. But the only way to win is to play the game. So play the game, you know, play the game the best you can.
And it carries over into everything else in your life. So what the sets that you don't give up on make you more dependable for your friends and your family. They make you more strong. And like how you do one thing is how you do everything. So you start to like get the details right in your turns, in your technique. You start to take better notes in school. You start to do better in your exams. You're literally like improving yourself in all areas.
Yeah, you take pride in the little things.
There's a quote I love. This guy, this great samurai, Miyamoto Musashi, he won so many duels, you know, like one-on-one sword duels. He'd represent his lord. And this is very savage, very dangerous. And these samurais, all they would do is train to fight. So he's fighting against people who spent their whole lives dedicated to winning in these duels, and it's won with like the most brutal fashion, like one stroke cuts you in half. And when it was all said and done, he became a monk, and he wrote a book, the Book of the Five Rings. And one of the things, a lot of wisdom in this book, and one of the things he says is that once you see the way in one thing, you see the way in all things. And I used to struggle early on in my swimming career when I was in high school and elementary school, and I saw a lot of the people around me who weren't specializing in one sport, doing some soccer, they're going on a boat trip, they're going with their family on a trip, and I was sacrificing a lot from a very early age to kind of specialize in swimming. And I was wondering all the time, like, am I missing out? Am I missing out on the other things? And I did feel sometimes like I was missing out. That's the pain of sacrifice. And when I started to understand that I was really growing as a person, and once that if I go really deep into this one thing, instead of going really wide and being just okay, very superficial, I'm a little bit, I can kick a ball, yeah, I can shoot basketball, but you're never going to be great at shooting a basketball, you're never going to be great at kicking the ball. But it's something about becoming great, that you understand what it means to be great, you understand what it takes, and that you can take that and you can apply it to the next journey in your life. And it's easier for you to become great because you have learned how to learn. You have learned how to grow.
I think it's a great note to kind of conclude this. You know, swimming teaches you how to learn, and again, you know, just build up that character all in preparation for something down the road that we don't even know is waiting for us, but we're going to be ready for it, whatever that may be.
And I look at all the guys I used to swim with and girls too, who really focused and stuck it out. they might not have all gone, most of them never really went to the Olympics. Some of them didn't even make it to swim past college, but now in life, they're all really successful people who don't just react to whatever's happening. They can consciously respond. They have a level of control over themselves that distinguishes them from regular people. And you guys are not regular people. You have to stop comparing yourself with the regular people at school or in the neighborhood who just are lazy and weak, and they go through life never struggling and never having to sacrifice and grow. And because of that, you will be so much further ahead of them in life and have a greater quality of existence.
I agree.
And you'll be able to give so much more gifts to the world.
All right, guys. Everyone that joined us, thank you. Thank you very much. George, thank you. And please come visit. We'd love to try those breathing techniques. And again, just your presence. There's a lot to learn from you.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thanks, everyone. And let's keep going. All right, let's stay strong, everyone. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, George. Thank you.
Train hard. Good luck.
Thanks, George.
Anytime.